Welcome. We are live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next hour, South Korea to host trilateral summit with China and Japan in Seoul. Leaders to meet for the first time in 5 years on May 26th. Campaigning intensifies for 7th and final phase of India's parliamentary election. PM Modi to hold rallies in northern Indian state of Uttar Pradesh. Cyclone Remal likely to make landfall between Bangladesh and West Bengal coast on Sunday. Indian director Payal Kapadia's All We Imagine as Light Bags Grand Prix at 77 Cannes Film Festival, marking a historic moment for Indian cinema. And Sunrisers Hyderabad will take on Kolkata Knight Riders in the IPL final at Chennai's M.A. Chidambaram Stadium on Sunday. News in detail now. Leaders from South Korea, China and Japan will begin their first trilateral summit since 2019 in South Korea's capital Seoul on Sunday. Chinese Premier Li Qiang arrived in Seoul ahead of bilateral talks with South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol. South Korea's president will also hold bilateral talks with Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida on Sunday ahead of the three-way gathering on Monday. The three nations will address disputes and cooperation and adopt a joint statement on wide-ranging topics including economy, science and technology. All right, let's cut across to DD India correspondent Laura Westbrook. She's joining us live from Hong Kong. Laura, South Korea hosts the first trilateral summit with China and Japan in nearly 4 years. Tell us, what do you expect in the summit?
Yes, this is the first summit since 2019, and that's partly because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but also partly because of resistance from Beijing. And part of the impetus to hold this summit now is that the US, South Korea and Japan held their own trilateral summit in Camp David in the US last August, where they reaffirmed their economic and security cooperation. So that's part of the push, especially coming from Beijing, to hold this summit now. Chinese Premier Li Qiang has arrived in Seoul. He is expected to hold bilateral talks with the South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol, and the Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida will also hold his own talks with the South Korean President today as well. There will be a dinner banquet tonight, and tomorrow is when the three leaders will meet to hold this trilateral summit. Chinese President Xi Jinping won't be attending, so some reports have said that that means military and security issues are effectively off the agenda, but they will be discussing 6 topics. They range from people-to-people exchanges, trade, investment, the aging population, climate change, and technology. So the South Korean side has said in a press conference that they see this as a way to reaffirm and reestablish cooperation between these three countries after quite a long break. And we've also heard from Chinese state media today. They sent out a statement and they said that the success of this trilateral summit will be depending on balancing competition with cooperation. But there are still major issues going on in the world that this summit falls against the backdrop of, not least that China has been holding at these military drills around Japan, and Beijing has also been watching how much closer South Korea and Japan have been growing, and that is a very big wariness that has caused China as well.
Laura, also, I mean, along with the summit, some bilaterals have also been planned, and you also think this summit will be a turning point for Korea, Japan and China to completely restore and normalize a three-way cooperation system?
Yes, they are the Chinese state media is definitely framing it as a way to try and normalize relations and have relations, have the three leaders meet again. Some analysts have said, look, there might not be any major breakthroughs, but it is meaningful in and of itself to have these three leaders meet, have the optics of holding this summit. That is in and of itself important. And these three leaders will be also releasing a joint statement at the end of the summit. So it'll be interesting to watch what gets announced, whether it is these in terms of people-to-people exchanges or trade or investment. So we will be watching that at the end of Monday. And it is important to remember that these three countries represent 25% of the world's GDP. For South Korea and Japan, it will be a balancing act for them because China is their largest trading partner. But Beijing has been watching South Korea and Japan grow closer to the US in the face of and they have been doing so in the face of China's growing military assertiveness in the region. South Korea and Japan will also be looking to discuss North Korea's nuclear program as well. They will be looking to China to try and see as its biggest source of aid, to try and use some of its influence on North Korea to try and get it to abandon its nuclear program as well. So we will be watching to see what comes out of that as well.
Laura, also last question before we leave you. After the inaugural standalone trilateral summit in 2008, if I'm not wrong, the three countries' leaders were supposed to hold such a meeting every year. Tell us why it didn't happen for 5 years.
Yes, well, that's very true. They promised to hold this every year since 2008, and they haven't held a summit since 2019. And so that was partly because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but also it was partly because of Beijing being not really wanting to hold a summit until now. But Beijing has been watching with increasing wariness that South Korea and Japan have been growing closer to the United States in terms of, and at this summit in Camp David last August, they reaffirmed their economic and security cooperation with the United States. So the part of the reason to also hold this summit now is that those three countries, the United States, South Korea and Japan, have been looking to hold another summit later in the year. So for Beijing, there is really this growing pressure, I think, to have this summit now, to reestablish its own trilateral relationship with these two countries and to try and exert some of its influence as well.
All right, Laura, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for getting us the latest from Hong Kong. Now, Taiwan President Lai Ching-te again offered talks with China on Sunday following 2 days of Chinese war games near the island, saying he looked forward to enhancing mutual understanding and reconciliation. China, which views democratically governed Taiwan as its own territory, carried out the military drills on Thursday and Friday, saying it was punishment after Lai's inauguration speech on Monday, which Beijing called another push for the island's formal independence. China has repeatedly lambasted Lai, saying he is a separatist. Lai rejects Beijing's sovereignty claims and says only Taiwan's people can decide their future. He has repeatedly offered talks but been rebuffed. Now, people in the United States will be heading to vote in less than 6 months to pick their next president, and it's a likely rematch between Democratic incumbent Joe Biden and the Republican former leader Donald Trump. Recent polls suggest that it is a close race, but Trump may be fractionally ahead. A second Trump administration could bring dramatic change globally in areas like climate policy, immigration and US involvement in security internationally. DD India's Caroline Malone reports from Washington.
Donald Trump has laid out what his priorities would be if he wins a second term, including deporting migrants crossing the border illegally, which he often calls an invasion, and by militarizing the border. In response to a question in a Time magazine article about it, he said, "I think the National Guard would be able to do that. If they weren't able to, then I'd use the military."
To make America great again.
Trump still says that he won the last election, and many supporters say they believe him, a lie that led to large crowds amassing on Capitol Hill on January 6, 2021, some rioting. The former leader says he's considering pardons for people convicted over it. On foreign policy, Trump in his last presidency pushed NATO members to commit a minimum of 2% of their GDP to defence spending. 20 out of 32 nations have committed to, and are focused on supporting Ukraine in its war against Russia. But Trump has also threatened not to support NATO allies that don't meet the military alliance's spending target, and rather encourage Russia to do whatever the hell they want.
Trump has said several times that he would stop support for Ukraine on day one of his presidency. His take on Ukraine is one that happens to be very close to that of the Kremlin, which is that Ukraine is not a real country, is run by corrupt, hard-right nationalists who are not worth supporting. I don't think that is necessarily the subject of 100% consensus, even within the hard right wing of the Republican Party. But the president taking this position would have a great weight.
Trump has also called climate science into question. During his last presidency, he pulled the US out of the Paris Agreement capping carbon emissions. He's being investigated by lawmakers for requesting $1 billion in campaign funds from top oil and gas executives, who he hosted for dinner while talking about reducing tax on the energy sector.
Taking over institutions, using taxpayer money to do it.
The Heritage Foundation is a Washington think tank that has created a playbook for a second Trump presidency, including replacing many civil servants with loyalists of the Republican leader. Some of Trump's allies have far-right views, including House Freedom Caucus policy chair and Texas Congressman Chip Roy, who's spoken out against government funding of the Department of Justice, as it's running 2 criminal cases against Trump on attempts to overturn the election and retaining classified documents.
$40 billion for the Department of Justice, which is continuing to carry out attacks on former President Trump and engage in lawfare to undermine all of our system of rule of law and to target the former president.
2 other cases against Trump include the ongoing New York trial in which he is charged with falsifying business records to cover up hush money payments, and in Georgia, a delayed case over his attempts to overturn the last election. How Trump acts if he gets into the White House again may also depend on how the Supreme Court rules on presidential immunity. They're due to give an opinion at the end of June. Trump has implied if he gets into power again and he's found not immune from prosecution, then he may go after his rivals. Caroline Malone in Washington for DD India.
To win after a campaign dominated by security concerns in the post-Soviet state. Noseda, a former senior economist who is not affiliated with any party, won the first round of the election on May 12th with 44% of the votes, short of the 50% he needed for an outright victory. He's running against Prime Minister Ingrida Simonite from the ruling centre-right Homeland Union Party that has been trailing in opinion polls. She was the only woman out of 8 candidates in the first round and came second with 20%. It will be the second time the two have competed in a presidential runoff. In 2019, Noseda beat Simonite with 66% of the votes. Now, political parties in South Africa held rallies in the final weekend before the country's national and provincial elections on May 29th. South African President and African National Congress leader Cyril Ramaphosa on Saturday promised to work more on issues including jobs and state welfare during his campaign for the elections that could loosen his party's 30-year grip on power. Julius Malema, leader of opposition party Economic Freedom Fighter, also addressed crowds and promised change during his campaign while calling supporters to vote in the elections. Now, latest in the New Caledonia unrest, the first evacuation flight for tourists stranded in France's Pacific territory of New Caledonia took off Saturday. The international airport in the capital, Nomia, has remained closed for more than a week, and all commercial flights have been cancelled due to the unrest until at least Tuesday. The tourists departed Saturday from the Magenta airfield in Nomia aboard military aircraft headed for Australia and New Zealand. Australia and New Zealand had already begun repatriating their nationals on Tuesday. The situation has been gradually easing for many people trapped in the territory that has been shaken since May 13 by riots over planned voting reforms. Now, amid a surge in gang violence, Haiti held a blood donation day that brought hope to its beleaguered citizens. The conflict has killed thousands and displaced hundreds of thousands. Residents of region donated blood despite the severe security challenges, highlighting the importance of solidarity. Blood Donation Day takes place every year in Haiti on the eve of Mother's Day in order to save the lives of mothers and children in Haiti. However, this year the donation is even more relevant due to the violent crisis. Well, still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. More than a third of people in the United States are living in places with unhealthy hair. DD India's special report. Hailstorm hits Mexican City amid heat wave. And clowns parade in Lima for Peruvian Clown Day.
Tracking the final phases of general election, Team Poll Pulse has reached the city of joy, Kolkata. West Bengal has 42 seats in the parliament and is voting across 7 phases.
আমাদের এডুকেশন মানে সরকারি যে এডুকেশন বা সরকারি স্বাস্থ্য ব্যবস্থা এগুলোকে আরো ডেভেলপ করা দরকার আগামী দিনে।
আমাদের যখন একটা অধিকার আছে তাহলে গণতান্ত্রিক স্বাধীনতা গণতান্ত্রিক অধিকারটা আমরা নিশ্চয়ই প্রয়োগ করব। সেটার জন্যই ভোটটা দেওয়া উচিত।
Bengal continues to witness a clash of powerful personality cults. Prime Minister Narendra Modi of the BJP versus Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee of the TMC. The alliance of Congress and left are also in the fray. Join us as we track the pulse of Indian democracy. Watch Poll Pulse on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Ukrainian attacks on Saturday killed 4 people in southern Russia's Belgorod region. According to the regional governor, air defense units had intercepted and destroyed 29 airborne targets. Russia's defense ministry also said that air defense units had intercepted and destroyed a Ukrainian drone over the adjacent Kursk region. North Korea's defense ministry on Sunday accused the United States and South Korea of ramping up reconnaissance activities around the inter-Korean border, warning that it will act if its sovereignty and security is violated. North Korea accused South Korea's Navy and Coast Guard of stoking military tension by stepping up patrol activities and increasingly breaching the maritime border. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un also criticized propaganda leaflets sent in balloons from South Korea, calling it a dangerous provocation. Those activities seriously infringe on North Korea's national sovereignty and security and will not be met with offensive countermeasures, Kim added. Now, Argentina's President Javier Milei on Saturday said that he would apply a significant tax reduction if the Congress approves a package of economic reforms to boost investments in the country. Milei's reform bill has been introduced amid a prolonged economic crisis in the country. The bill includes plans to privatize state entities and to provide more incentives for business. The bill was approved by the lower house and now needs the Senate's approval. Now, Burkina Faso's ruling junta extended its rule for another 5 years after a national dialogue was held on Saturday. The national dialogue saw participation from civil society representatives, security and defense forces and transitional assembly lawmakers. The new charter sets the transition back to democracy by 60 months from 2nd July this year. The charter allows military leader Ibrahim Traoré to run for president at the end of the transition. More than a third of people in the United States are living in places with unhealthy air. according to the latest report from the American Lung Association. Air pollution is a major problem globally, with the vast majority of people now living with air that exceeds the World Health Organization's recommended levels of pollutants. And despite efforts to improve things in the US, many people are breathing unhealthy air. DD India's Caroline Malone reports.
Fierce, raging wildfires are getting worse in North America, threatening people's lives directly and indirectly as the smoke drifts across populated areas. This year's State of Air report shows for the first time in a quarter of a century the country's worst hit areas for air pollution are in the western US, such as in California, where heat, drought and wildfires are all making things worse. A US air quality law, the Clean Air Act, regulates emissions and the environmental agency sets air quality standards. However, the latest report from the American Lung Association shows more than 100 million people nationally live in places with unhealthy levels of air pollution.
The Clean Air Act has guided air pollution control in the United States for over 50 years, and it's made a tremendous difference. It's one of the most successful pieces of environmental legislation ever. And our air pollution has gotten a lot better than it used to be.
Power plants, coal fires and industry all contribute to particulate pollution, something the current President Joe Biden is pushing to better regulate. There are also rules enforcing cleaner cars and incentives to buy electric. But traffic is still a major contributor to air pollution, impacting health. While people near busy roads are more exposed to carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and smaller particles of air pollution that can more easily get into our lungs. Children, older adults and those with existing lung diseases are also more susceptible to getting health problems. Health impacts from air pollution include breathing problems like asthma, heart attacks and strokes. The World Health Organization says there's a link between air pollution and around 4 million premature deaths annually. On a global scale, the US has relatively good air quality compared to many other countries. But air pollution doesn't stop at borders, so how each country plans to tackle the causes affects others too.
We are in a climate emergency. We do need to take steps to make sure that we are reducing those climate change pollutants and getting that under control so that we can have some hope of reducing the heat and drought that are resulting in wildfires, which are going to have a significant public health impact.
Within the US, authorities are taking preventative steps, particularly on the West Coast, to try and reduce wildfires through more proactive forest management. But with experts predicting another record hot summer, potentially fueling fires and smoke, overall air pollution is likely to get worse, further harming people's health. Caroline Malone, Washington, for DD India.
Now, the cyclonic storm Remal that brewed over the North Bay of Bengal has intensified into a severe cyclonic storm. This is the first cyclone in the Bay of Bengal this pre-monsoon season. A low-pressure system initially detected in the Bay of Bengal on May 22nd has strengthened into a more significant depression currently positioned in the central Bay of Bengal. It will intensify into a severe cyclonic storm in the next 6 hours and cross between Bangladesh and adjoining Bengal coast around midnight. A storm surge of up to 1.5 meters is likely to inundate low-lying areas of coastal West Bengal and Bangladesh at the time of landfall of Cyclone Remal. A red alert has been issued for the coastal districts of South and North 24 Parganas in West Bengal for Sunday and Monday, where extremely heavy rain is expected in some areas. An orange alert is also in place for Kolkata and Odisha. And the Weather Office has advised fishermen not to venture into the sea in the North Bay of Bengal until the morning of Monday. Several flights have also been suspended due to the havoc. Indian Coast Guard is closely monitoring around the area where cyclonic storm is formed to ensure preventive measures in the place. The ICG has deployed over 10 ships and 2 aircraft to combat the extreme weather. Let's go across to Dhaka in Bangladesh, where DD India correspondent Naval Sangh Parmar is joining us live. Naval, tell us, Cyclone Remal will cross between the coast of West Bengal and Bangladesh at midnight on Sunday. Tell us how intense it is likely to be and the measures that have been taken place.
Yes,
according to the Met Department of Bangladesh, the cyclone is around 300 kilometers south of Paira port, which is in the Sundarban area of Bangladesh. So, and it is 400 kilometers away from the Chattogram port. So, the cyclone is moving towards the north in the Bay of Bengal, and it may likely to stuck today midnight between on the Sundarban area. Particularly, if you see the image of the issued by the Met Department, it will stuck to the Sundarban area of either side of the Bengal, means West Bengal as well as Bangladesh. So, in Bangladesh, Met Department advised to hoist a great danger signal for the coastal district, 10 coastal district of Khulna and Borisal division, as well as for the Paira and Mongla port. At the same time, it advised to hoist a great danger signal 9 for the Chattogram and the Cox's Bazar. As you mentioned, that it will low-lying area of this South Bangladesh, particularly Khulna and Borisal division. It may be around. It may be inundated due to a windy surge of 1.5 meters of waves in the sea. And due to that, the entire Bangladesh may experience a heavy rain. And when it will stuck, then it will make a. It is predicted that it may impact Sundarban area maximum.
What all areas, Naval, are most likely to be affected? Areas that are on red and orange alert also, and also tell us what all advisories have been issued.
Yes, the area, like I said, that Khulna and Borisal division of Bangladesh, in that Satkhira, Khulna, Begarhat, Barugna, Bhola, Patua, Khali, and Borisal itself districts. These are the 10 districts of South Bangladesh, particularly the southwest Bangladesh. The Chattogram division, the Cox's Bazar and Chattogram port and the districts are laying westward to the cyclone. So the ice is moving toward the north, and it will stuck between around Sundarban areas, and in that the southern district of West Bengal and the southern and southern west district of the Bangladesh will be the most affected according to the prediction of the Met Department of Bangladesh. And the precautionary measures, government of Bangladesh issued guidelines, and they prepared around 500 shelter home as well as their standby fire service and civil defense department, and they cancelled the leave for the officials and the employees of the like NDRF. There we have here in Bangladesh, it is fire service and civil defense department. And at the same time, they asked the medical team to be ready. Around 290 medical teams in Chattogram, Borisal, and Khulna division are kept in standby to meet the eventuality due to the Cyclone Remal. And around 270 teams of the fire service and civil defense are kept ready to mitigate the situation created by the Cyclone Remal when it struck to the Bangladesh coast.
All right, now we'll leave it at that. Thank you for getting us the latest from Dhaka and Bangladesh. Also take care of yourself. The Indian Met Department has predicted that rainfall will evade certain states in India even as heat waves continue to raise temperatures. Several northwestern states reel under scorching heat, keeping mercury well above the 40 degrees Celsius mark. And now the Weather Department has said that the red alert for severe heat wave is likely to continue until 29th May. According to IMD's rain forecast, Punjab, Haryana, Chandigarh, Delhi, Uttar Pradesh and Rajasthan will not witness any rain until May 31st. Meanwhile, Kerala, Lakshadweep and coastal Karnataka are expected to experience widespread light to moderate rainfall accompanied by thunderstorms, lightning and gusty winds. An unexpected hailstorm hit the Mexican city of Puebla on Friday, covering streets with thick sheets of ice. The storm hit the city amid a heat wave in the country. Locals were surprised as hail accumulated up to several meters in some areas. The hailstorm caused widespread damage to homes, blocked roads and knocked down the trees. More than 4,000 people were likely impacted by a massive landslide that flattened a village in northern Papua New Guinea. Hundreds feared dead in the landslide in the Pacific nation north of Australia that leveled Kaukalam village. Authorities say the landslide had buried more than 300 people and 1,100 houses. Helicopters grapples to rescue people from rubble, searching for survivors. Now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Hundreds of clowns transformed Lima streets into a vibrant spectacle on Saturday to celebrate Peruvian Clown Day. Clowns clad in colorful costumes paraded through the downtown area in an annual tradition to mark the death of Tony Perejil, known as the Clown of the Poor. An emu was on the loose on the streets of Tin Shui Wai in Hong Kong on Saturday. The lost emu, about 1.5 meters tall, was rescued by authorities. The runway emu belonged to a farm in a nearby area that lost 2 emus in last month. Still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. India and France joint military exercise Shakti to conclude today. 27 dead in massive fire at Gaming Zone in Gujarat. A special investigation team has been set up to find out the cause of the fire. The Goa Heritage Festival's last day today. The 3-day festival saw an immersive experience at the Saligaon football ground.
There is enormous power in people's narratives, especially when they tell their own story. We meet some people and communities who tell us how it is done.
Anything hazardous to humans is dumped here in North Chennai. We need to tell these stories because we are the ones who are affected by it.
Delhi Metro's philosophy is very clear. We want to generate non-conventional energy. Apart from the whatever is supplied by the grid, we want to generate a lot of energy through solar sources.
The benefit of running an MRF is that it protects me from the rain and harsh conditions outdoors. Work goes on even in hot weather and during the rainy season.
India is one of the climate swing states. We have to get India right to get emissions and to be able to really combat climate change.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Recap of what we have done so far. South Korea to host trilateral summit with China and Japan in Seoul. Leaders to meet for the first time in 5 years on May 26th. Campaigning intensifies for 7th and final phase of India's parliamentary elections. PM Modi to hold rallies in northern Indian state of Uttar Pradesh. Cyclone Remal likely to make landfall between Bangladesh and West Bengal coasts on Sunday. Indian director Payal Kapadia's All We Imagine as Light bags Grand Prix at 77th Cannes Film Festival, marking a historic moment for the Indian cinema. And Sunrisers Hyderabad will take on Kolkata Knight Riders in the IPL finals at Chennai's M.A. Chidambaram Stadium on Sunday. Now, penultimate phase, 6th phase of the Great Indian Democratic Election concluded at 6 p.m. on Saturday. The 58 seats across 6 states and 2 union territories recorded 60% voter turnout. According to the Election Commission, till 10:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time, West Bengal recorded the highest turnout with 78.27%, followed by 63.56% in Jharkhand and 61.84% in Odisha. Several politicians and prominent personalities cast their votes in the 6th phase of the Lok Sabha polls on Saturday. Overall, 889 candidates were in the fray in this phase. The key candidates include Bharatiya Janata Party leaders Dharmendra Pradhan from Odisha Sambalpur, Manoj Tiwari on North East Delhi seat, Menka Gandhi from Sultanpur and Manohar Lal Khattar from Karnal. The Congress party's prominent candidates in the fray are Kanhaiya Kumar on North East Delhi and Raj Babbar from Gurgaon. And campaigning has intensified for the 7th and final phase of Lok Sabha polls. Senior leaders of various political parties are leaving no stone unturned to woo the voters. Bharatiya Janata Party leader and Prime Minister Narendra Modi to campaign for the party candidates in Mirzapur, Ghosi and Bansgaon districts of Uttar Pradesh. Senior Bharatiya Janata Party leader and Union Home Minister Amit Shah to visit Bihar and Punjab today. Amit Shah to address rallies in Bihar's Aurangabad and Sasaram. He will also hold rally in Punjab's Ludhiana. Bharatiya Janata Party President J.P. Nadda to hold public meetings in Bihar. And in order to garner support in party's favour and making a last attempt to woo the voters in this Lok Sabha elections, opposition also geared up to reach out at voters for their support. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi will address public gatherings in Una and Nahan district of Himachal Pradesh. And Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal is likely to be in Punjab till May 30th to campaign for Aam Aadmi Party. All right, let's go across to DD India correspondent Dibyendu Mondal. He's joining us live from West Bengal. In fact, he's in Kolkata. Dibyendu, West Bengal recorded a good voter turnout of 78.27% in the sixth phase, which is a good number and which shows that people came out in big number to vote, and polling was successfully concluded in 8 constituencies.
Well, good morning, Abhishek. That's right, but the final poll tally has changed this morning.
Okay.
It is about 80.16%, which is almost about 19% over and above the national polling percentage. So you see, this number perhaps gives an indication of the number of people that came out to vote. Even in the 5th phase of election, we have seen the final poll tally in Bengal was about 81%, which was again about 21% higher than the national average. So of course, the people in Bengal are coming out in large numbers to vote. We have been covering the elections in Bengal for quite some time now, and in every phase we have seen long queues that are making beeline at the polling stations to go and cast their vote. But having said this, Abhishek, yesterday's polling in Bengal also saw some sort of violence in multiple parts of the state. In fact, in almost all the seats that went to polls yesterday, were including the Tomluk, Ghatal, as well as Midnapur and Jhargram constituencies, where the BJP alleged that the Trinamool Congress either pulled their voting agent out of the polling stations. There were multiple issues of violence in which Jhargram BJP candidate Tudu, his head was broken. His personal security personnel were also admitted in the hospital after he was chased away by the alleged Trinamool Congress voters from a polling station in Jhargram. There were also violence in Keshpur, in Ghatal. There were also violence in Kathi, Tomluk, in multiple places. But this is perhaps the nature of election in West Bengal, which is why the Election Commission had carefully structured the elections here in Bengal, spread out in all the 7 phases of elections which the country is witnessing here. So, of course, despite the violence, despite many disturbances in multiple places that went to polls yesterday, the voter turnout of 80% is excellent, and the people we have seen since morning had come out in large numbers to cast their vote. Back to you, Abhishek.
Dibyendu, also talking about the last phase, 7th phase, 9 seats of West Bengal will go to the polls in this phase. How interesting you think will be the battle in the last phase?
Well, Abhishek, a lot at stakes for both the Trinamool as well as the BJP. These 9 seats which are going to polls is, of course, very interesting because both in 2014 and 2019 elections, the BJP had not won a single seat from these 9 constituencies which are going to polls. All of them are in the Trinamool Congress's kitty. But it is a challenge now for the BJP to get at least 2 to 3 seats from the Trinamool Congress's kitty into the BJP this time around, for which the Prime Minister is also coming in to Kolkata to campaign for his BJP candidates in at least 3 places, which includes the Damdam Lok Sabha, where a veteran Trinamool Congress leader Shaukat Rai will be contesting, the Jadavpur constituency where Anirban Ganguly of the BJP is contesting, as well as Barashat Lok Sabha constituency where BJP sitting MLA from the Bangaon Dakshin constituency is contesting. So of course, it's an interesting battle. This phase will also see elections in the metropolitan city, the 2 constituencies of the metropolitan city of Kolkata, which is Kolkata North and South. It will also see elections being held in the Diamond Harbour constituency, which is known as the bastion of Abhishek Banerjee. So to breach that bastion, the BJP will try hard to ensure that Abhishek Banerjee's bastion of Diamond Harbour is breached. But also, Abhishek, interestingly, this time in this phase, the Bashirhat constituency, which is part of the Sandesh Khali that made headlines not just in India but across the globe, is also going to witness election in this seventh and the final phase of elections. So, of course, it will be interesting to see how these combinations, how these political aspects play out over the next 5 to 6 days when the campaigning will be in full swing. Back to you.
All right, Dibyendu, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for your inputs. Moving on to our next story now. The 7th edition of the biennial joint military exercise Shakti between India and France is scheduled to conclude on Sunday. The military exercise is being conducted in Umroi in the northeast Indian state of Meghalaya. The exercise aims to enhance joint military capability of the two nations and to undertake multi-domain operations in sub-conventional scenarios. Now, Indian naval ship Kilton arrived at Brunei's Muara on Saturday. The visit is part of the operational deployment of the Indian Navy's Eastern Fleet to South China Sea. The visit is expected to further strengthen the friendship and cooperation between the two maritime nations. The visit will conclude with the maritime partnership exercise at sea between the Indian Navy and Royal Brunei Navy. Now, at least 27 people died after a fire broke out at a gaming zone in the West Indian state of Gujarat on Saturday. Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel visited the accident site on Sunday morning. He also met the victims at the hospital. The state government has also announced 4 lakh rupees compensation for the families of the deceased, while 50,000 rupees for the injured. A special investigation team has also been set up to find out the cause of the fire. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar also expressed grief at the loss of life. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi expressed grief over the loss of lives in Rajkot zone fire incident. Taking to X, PM Modi said, "Extremely distressed by the fire mishap in Rajkot. My thoughts are with all those who have lost their loved ones. Prayers for the injured. The local administration is working to provide all possible assistance to those affected." DD India's Meghna Dev is tracking this story. She is joining us live from Rajkot. Meghna, what is the latest you can tell us? Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel has reached at the incident, and is also the rescue operation complete or still underway?
Well, Abhishek, the rescue operation is complete. Behind me, I'll keep you with the visuals so that I can show you the aftermath of the devastating massive fire that took place in Rajkot yesterday. This is the TRP gaming zone, which has, turned into rubbles because of the massive fire that took place yesterday. 27 people have lost their lives in this massive incident. And besides that, also we see a number of children are a part of the number that I am giving you of 27 deceased. While in the morning today, Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel was here at the incident site, and he also went to the hospital where there are people, the injured people have been admitted. He did speak to them as well. But this news is really heartbreaking. First, because what preliminary information tells us that there was no fire NOC that this gaming zone had, and it was running since 1.5–2 years and did not have a fire NOC, which actually tells us so this was an incident in the wait. Second, once the bodies did come out, the dead bodies came out, they were so charred that their relatives could not identify them. The bodies have gone for post-mortem. The people, the relatives are waiting for DNA testing so that they will be able to identify the dead bodies, the mortal remains of their loved ones. So definitely this is a very devastating incident that has taken place here in Rajkot. This place, yesterday it was buzzing with all children, and definitely it was a weekend. So, and it is summer vacation here. So definitely the number of the footfall was larger. While behind me you can see this is a temporary structure. So on the first floor, when the first floor caught fire, this structure did collapse. The people who were on the ground floor managed to escape, but the people who were on the first floor could not make it out, and that's the reason the structure collapsed. Because of the fire, on the ground we can also see a lot of thermocols there, which actually did catch fire, and we know that thermocols do catch fire very easily, very quickly. There are tires here also, which did catch fire. The firefighters had a really hard time, about 3 to 4 hours it took for them to douse the fire, and because of the wind velocity as well, because it was really windy last evening. So the wind velocity also made it quite difficult for the firefighters to douse the fire and rescue people. Also there was a search operation which was launched to ensure that there is nobody left inside. Very importantly, what we get to see is that the administration is on its toes. The SIT, the Special Investigating Team, has been formed so that an investigation can be done, so that the reason for the fire can be known. The people who are responsible for this can be brought to justice. While the owner of this TRP game zone, Yuvraj Singh Solanki, has been apprehended. He has been taken for interrogation. The manager of this has been taken for interrogation, and a couple of more people who are said to be associated with this TRP game zone have also been taken into custody, and interrogation is on. The SIT also includes ADGP rank officer, chief fire officer, an officer from the forensic laboratory, FSL. Also, there are engineers who are related to the road and developmental department. So all of these people in different domains will be able to ascertain how this happened, where were the loopholes, why people couldn't make it out, what was the fault in the structure. A lot is to be ascertained, and the government has been saying, the Chief Minister of Gujarat, Bhupendra Patel, has been saying that we will leave no stone unturned to bring them to justice. Yesterday also, the Minister of State for Home Affairs here in Gujarat, the State Minister of Home Affairs was here, and he was there all night. He ensured that he speaks to the people here in and around, and he did take a stock of the situation as well. So while the administration is on its toes, it is definitely a very spine-chilling situation when we speak to the people here around, because it is nothing less than a nightmare for them to see so many charred bodies coming out of a gaming zone where did people come to play, where people did come with happy faces and left from here with broken hearts.
Absolutely, it must be a nightmare and very unfortunate incident that happened in Rajkot, and people must be running helter-skelter for their survival. But what we know is that SIT has been formed, and reason of the fire is still not known, and the co-owner and the manager of the facility are among the 4 persons detained. Thank you, Meghna. Well, keep tracking this story. We'll keep taking updates from you. In a tragic news, at least 11 people died after a bus in the North Indian state of Uttar Pradesh met with an accident on Saturday night. 10 people have been reportedly injured. The bus was carrying devotees who were en route to the Purnagiri temple in Uttarakhand. A truck lost control and collided with the bus. In a press release, the state's Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath expressed his condolences to the deceased families. He also said that speedy relief and rescue work has been ordered. Now let's take a look at other stories making news. A fire broke out at a children's hospital in East Delhi's Vivek Vihar, killing at least 6 newborn babies. The Delhi Fire Services said it received a call at night and 9 fire tenders were rushed to the site. President and Vice President expressed grief over the incident. The Goa Heritage Festival 2024, organized by Government of Goa, is set to have its closing day today. The three-day festival saw an immersive experience at the Saligaon football ground. The festival showcases the diverse culture heritage of Goa, offering attendees a unique opportunity to experience the essence of the state's traditions through various artistic expressions. Food Safety and Standards Authority of India directed all states to not grant licenses for selling or processing human milk. India's top food body said in an advisory that several registered societies had urged commercialization of human milk. However, the body warned that activities related to the commercialization of human milk and its products should be immediately stopped. In a historic win for India, Payal Kapadia's All We Imagine As Light bagged the Grand Prix, the second highest award at the Cannes Film Festival on Saturday night. The film, the story of two Kerala nurses living in contemporary Mumbai, was the first Indian film in 30 years to compete in the main competition at Cannes. It stars Indian actors Kani Kushruti, Divya Prabha and Chaya Kadam. The only Indian film to ever win the Palme d'Or, then known as Grand Prix du Festival International du Film, is Chetan Anand's Nicha Nagar in the year 1946. Mrinal Sen's domestic help drama Kharij won the jury prize in 1983. And after her grand win, Payal Kapadia spoke on how she believes the filmmaking space is seeing more work from female filmmakers and how it is gradual but necessary change. Take a listen.
It's wonderful that there are more films being made by female filmmakers, female technicians, female cinematographers, sound recordists. We need many more, but the change is happening and gradually but surely. And I think it only makes things more inclusive. And I hope that that we could have more films from female filmmakers in Cannes.
And Bollywood actor Shah Rukh Khan has congratulated Indian cinematographer Santosh Devan for being awarded the prestigious Pire Anjanu Excellence in Cinematography honor at the 77th Cannes Film Festival. Take a listen.
Big congratulations to Mr. Santosh Devan, or Santa, as we call him, for receiving the prestigious Pire Anjanu Award at the Cannes Film Festival. I've had the good fortune of working with Santa very early on in my career, and like so many others, I've learned a lot from him. We did films like Dil Se, Phir Bhi Dil Hai Hindustani, and he directed me in the beautifully crafted Asoka. And during the course of making these films, there was so much learning from him. He taught me that genius is not thought out, it is felt. And our belief has to be stronger than our desire just to succeed commercially.
Bollywood film star Amir Khan also congratulated Santosh Devan and recalled the time spent with him during shootings and praised Devan for his cinematic vision.
Santosh and I worked together when I was doing my second film. It was called Raak, and I think it was his first film, if I'm not mistaken. But in any case, it was towards the beginning of both our careers, and I remember what a joy it was working with Santosh. He's someone he's a great DOP. What I love about him is that he's really good at what he's doing. So he takes, 1/10 the time that other DOPs take to get to the same place.
And the Pire Anjanu Excellence in Cinematography Award, introduced in 2013, honors outstanding contributions to the field of cinematography. Santosh Devan's recognition is particularly noteworthy as he is the first Asian to receive this accolade, joining the ranks of legendary cinematographers like Edward Lachman, Agnes Goddard, Barry Ackroyd and Roger Deakins. Time now for some sports updates. We'll start with FA Cup in football. Manchester United produced their best performance of a mediocre season to upset Manchester City 2-1 in the FA Cup finals on Saturday and deprive their rivals of the double. Goals by teenagers Alejandro Garnacho and Kobe Mainu put United in the driving seat by half-time at Wembley, and they survived a City siege after the break to win the trophy for the 13th time. Champion City, bidding to become the first club to win the double in successive seasons, were well below their best. And big day for star Indian shuttler PV Sindhu as she will face China's Wang Yizhi in the women's singles final at Malaysia Masters on Sunday. Two-time Olympic medalist Sindhu stormed into the final of the competition after beating Thailand's Busanan on Saturday. She defeated 13-21, 21-16, 21-12 in the semi-finals. This also marks her first final of a tournament since 2023 Spain Masters. Under showtime on the last day of Indian Premier League, teams who finish in the top two in the league stages are set to clash in the IPL final at Chennai's M.A. Chidambaram Stadium on Sunday. KKR is eyeing its third IPL title after winning it twice in 2012 and 2014, while SRH is looking for its second championship after 2016. Alright, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.
Voice of a rising